All right, welcome back, folks. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Gary Sheffield Jr., and you are watching Yankees Unloaded. Today, we have a fun little episode for you guys because the Yankees did win 4-2 against the Kansas City Royals, coming off a win against the Dodgers to wrap up that game at the stadium. They went to Kansas City, and Carlos Rodon and company delivered the business. Now, it's 4-2 win, but this is a really good baseball team, Gary. They were 12 games above 500, I believe, when they came into this game. So this was big to go up against Lugo, the way he's been pitching, and do what they were able to do, swing the bat, generate some contact, play some small ball. We saw a lot of sack bunts. I think we saw 3 of them in this game. There was the most hilarious sequence. I think you know where I'm going with this. When Jose Trevino had a push bunt to the first base side. And they kind of had him in no man's land, to be honest with you. And the runner ended up he was going to go to third because of it. And Trevino kept going backward. So even though he at one point looked like he could have beaten it out, and then the first baseman decided, hey, I'm going to take this out and not try to get the guy at second. It was funny because Trevino actually ended up walking all the way back to almost home plate, which I've never really seen before. So I thought that was, a funny moment, but really it
Like a
just kind
hobby
of capped
bias play.
off. Yeah, I mean it was bizarre, Gary, and it capped off a really fun game to watch the B team win. Jahmai Jones is putting in that work, on the base paths and everything. Even so much so he fell flat on his face. I don't know if you caught that. That was
I did.
hilarious.
I don't like seeing those Jahmai Jones starts or him playing, really.
No, but when you
We're
win
not a
those
huge fan.
games, it feels pretty damn good. So Gary, let's dive into this game. Let's talk a little bit about our guy Juan Soto was back. Thank God. I mean, you could make the argument this is how important Juan Soto is. They can win with the B team, if you will, when Juan Soto's playing. He just his energy, just him being out there. I feel like it sounds weird because it's like, really, you don't think watching Judge do his thing, inspires confidence? I think it does. But I think Soto is just so much more energetic that I think you just can inject that into anybody on the roster.
Oh, I mean, no question. But I also have to question what Kansas City was doing with their game plan. Because remember, before this game ever started, we talked about Kansas City and how well they play at home. They're pretty mediocre on the road. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. But
Yeah.
the conclusion here, coming into the game, is that the Yankees are sitting down Aaron Judge. The staff told us it's nothing to worry about, so we would have to assume that that's correct. And okay, as Kansas City's staff, you have to say, who's hitting now after Juan Soto? Because it's been told to us that Juan Soto's playing. And if you looked at our lineup, you would see Anthony Volpe, no surprise there. Juan Soto, Gleyber Torres, Verdugo. What sticks out to me is how you possibly allow Seth Lugo to go after Juan Soto in the first inning and allow the Yankees to have any momentum whatsoever. It made no sense to me. Based on our lineup alone, when Gleyber Torres, who's hitting 230 this year, okay, he's not off to a good start. Not typical Gleyber Torres. How do you possibly go after one of the hottest hitters in Major League Baseball? His ops is over 1,000. Are you kidding me? So, Jake, I'm sitting here watching baseball, and there are a lot of smart people within this game, whether it be covering, whether it be managing, right, or just up in the front office. But it's hard to believe that a team as smart as the Kansas City Royals, right, who have, Salvador Perez over there, like obviously he's not catching anymore, but they have those type of brains in the clubhouse, and they're actually going after Juan Soto without Aaron Judge on the field. That was surprising to me, and I thought it set the tone. The fact that we scored early, we needed to get a punch out early to win the fight. I thought we did that. We delivered. And then to bring it home was Carlos Rodon's performance. They talked before the game started. They said, a lot of right-handed bats. The changeup is the most important pitch of the day. Not striking guys out, but getting weak contact. If you watch Rodon, we predicted his ERA would be in the mid-2s. I think you said low 3s. He's in the high twos right now. He's been excellent. The changeup was dialed. He's obviously got the power slider that's always been a pitch for him, but the emergence of that changeup allows him to give up less hard contact against righties. It allows him to go through the third time in the lineup without a problem. Yesterday, he wasn't having any issue. Essentially, what I can tell you is that he struck out 3 guys. Normally, when you see a Carlos Rodon start, if he's not missing barrels, he's not doing well. He was giving up weak contact after weak contact, and he was just mowing down hitters. And if he's doing that, we now know Gerrit Cole's on the way. He's already facing hitters. He's already on rehab assignments. It's looking really good for us in terms of what's happening with Clark Schmidt and trying to figure all that stuff out. So I just love what this game was about because, Jake, we were actually texting about this. We didn't like this at all. This game coming in, we didn't like it. Okay. And it felt like a punt lineup. If you actually go back and look at Twitter, which I know Twitter means nothing, but if you look at the temperament of the fan base coming into this lineup in this game, a lot of people would have said, this seems like we're preparing for game 2 and 3 of the series already. Like we're trying to get Aaron Judge off his feet, get him ready. And then Juan Soto's getting his first bit of into action here. Game 2 and game 3 is where we go to work. And we showed up and punched him right in the mouth right away. And then, of course, like I said, Rodon brought it home. So, yeah, it was a surprising win, to be honest with you. I wasn't expecting to win this game. I know everybody thinks the Yankees have to win 162 games to be successful. But, I mean, let's be honest. Sometimes the writing's on the wall. Not everything lines up to win a game. In my opinion, not much lined up for us well in this game, and we just went out and won anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this just showed this is a good baseball team, like really good baseball team. I mean, they beat a good baseball team without Aaron Judge, without, Gerrit Cole. It's not like Cole was on that mound or anything. But it goes to show you Rodon is the guy that they paid for. Last year, it's confirmed, in my opinion. This settles it. Last year was the injury. Last year was, hey, I didn't really get a chance to get going to rev myself up in spring training. We're seeing that with Monty. We're seeing that with Snell. Okay. I think that's confirmed, Gary. You and I were talking about that it was a theory that we had. Now I think it's 100% ironclad. If you do not rev yourself up as a pitcher in training camp, in spring training, you are screwed. Okay. It is going to take almost the entire year to get yourself going. I don't think Snell at any point is going to find it. I don't think Monty at any point is going to find it. I think it will be too late. So with that being said, Gary, 14 starts for Rodon this year, 9-2, 2.93 ERA, 74 strikeouts, and 1.05 whip. Guess what? This is the perfect time to compare because at this point, 14 starts last year for Carlos Rodon in 2023, 3-8 with a 6.85 ERA, 64 Ks, and 1.45 whip. He had no command. He had no idea where the strike zone was. He was trying to do things that his arm just simply was not doing. Rodon was shot last year, and it had nothing to do with him and everything to do with his lack of preparation due to the injury. I don't blame Rodon at all. And I said this, I texted you this last year when I was at the Mets game and he pitched. I was like, I see something here. Like, I actually felt like, I felt good about his start. And it just gave me kind of that vibe. Like, if that comes out, that kind of tells me this year just isn't his, but he was signed for 8 years. And with baseball, I mean, those are all fully guaranteed. So he's going to be around for a while. The good news is I don't think he's aging poorly at all. I think he really just looks like he did when he had those, sub 3 ERAs, in San Francisco or,
I agree.
with the White Sox. I mean, I think he is what he is. And he is a power 2. He could be an ace in a certain rotation, but not the Yankees, not right now. And he doesn't have to be. And I want to also bring attention to the fact he struck out 64 last year. He struck out 74 this year. We've talked about, like, he's not striking out guys on the level he used to because he's changed his approach, and I think it's for the better. And it's allowed him to carry it into the seventh inning and eighth inning. It's allowed him to conserve those pitches because the Yankees have still been cautious with letting him go more than 100 pitches. They do that with everybody, but definitely with him, knowing his history. So Gary, this is a big deal for me to see Rodon, also to hear him afterwards, how he circled this game on the schedule. He's a team guy. He's a guy that's fiery. He's a team guy. And if he comes off as like a little bit of an ego or that, like, he seems like he's a me, not we type of guy, that's just how badly he wants to succeed for his team. How many times have we seen him get pissed off as he's coming off the mound? This is another gem of a start from Rodon. And we've said this multiple times. So I will say this. I know it's early, but I will say we were right about Rodon's emergence, his resurgence. And I'm excited because when Cole is inserted back in this rotation and you have him pitching the way he is and you have Heel, that's the best, in my opinion, that's the big three of the American League and maybe in the entire league when it comes to rotations. That is the big three. Find me a better trio of pitchers right now. You can't.
Yeah, you can probably find better names, but I'll tell you one thing. You can't find hotter pitchers, right?
No.
Because Luis Heel is pitching like one of the best pitchers in the league. Like, you can argue that dude over there in Detroit is spinning it maybe slightly better. He's got slightly better numbers, right? And it's going to be a debate between those two guys at the All-Star game. But how many people thought that name was going to be a candidate to be pitching the All-Star game for the Yankees? No one did. Right?
No.
You spoke very highly of him. You didn't think this was going to be the case this early. And now Rodon, who we did predict to rebound, he has rebounded. Okay, Nestor Cortez has just kind of been ho-hum. He's been okay, right? Marcus Stroman's been much more than what people ever asked for. He's been excellent, absolutely spectacular. He's been a great teammate. Everything about him's been excellent. And now Gerrit Cole, the sky was falling, right? He's hurt. And we were all thinking about, how does this project when it comes to how he's going to be later on? When he does come back, what's he going to look like? And again, Jake, you just brought up Rodon and you kind of punted last year and said, well, a lot of that was his injuries. Well, it makes me beg the question. I have to ask this question. Doesn't it change philosophy for what teams should be doing at the beginning of the year with their starting pitchers if there is an injury? Now, a lot of times when people say this starting pitcher got hurt, okay, first 2 weeks of spring training, he goes down. But what do they tell you? We're not expecting him to miss a start, okay? We're expecting to shut him down for a week. He'll be ready for opening day. And that's usually seen as a good thing. But in my opinion, it's terrible because it means you're missing 2 weeks of preparation, not just 2 weeks of time, okay? A month and a half from now, if Clark Schmidt got hurt or if Gerrit Cole got hurt and they missed 2 weeks, they could come back in 2 weeks and it shouldn't be an issue. They've already been revved up. But during spring training, where your body's not ready to throw 100 pitches, it's not ready to throw 90 pitches, in my opinion, if a pitcher misses any time as a starter in spring training, they should not be starting the season, okay? We did that with Rodon. We essentially said, we know you missed time, but you're ready physically to pitch. And he's not. Just because you can throw the baseball without it hurting doesn't mean you're ready. And that's what we learned last year. Teams should be learning that from what happened to Rodon last year. And we're very thankful, by the way, and it bodes well for us, especially as a Yankees podcast and Yankees fans, that Gerrit Cole is underway with the rev-up process. They're not just saying, well, physically he feels good, because he already feels physically good. He already feels physically ready, but he's not ready. And then when he is ready, he'll be back and pitching like the Gerrit Cole we all know and love. So, yeah, Rodon, in his first real year as a Yankee, he's delivering. You know, whether or not people like these contracts, they think they're for too much money, you know, can't help those people there. But I'll tell you this, great pitchers in the league, guys who are predictably good when they're healthy, they're expensive, okay? And the reason they're so expensive is because they spend so much time in their early years not being paid for what they're doing. Okay, you're making 500 G's. You're going into arbitration. People are fighting to make you
Oh
less
yeah.
and less money, and you've got your agent fighting in arbitration to get your salary up, right? So he can get a bigger cut, right? You're in a new tax bracket. You're doing all types of stuff, and when you become a free agent, you're going to try to cash out. And of course, when you do that, teams like the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Red Sox are going to come calling, and they're going to give you big checks. So I say all that to say this. Carlos Rodon, we predicted him to have a rebound year because he had a proper rev up process. We expected him, especially with him showing up early to spring training. We knew he meant business. We knew he was a Yankee in his mentality. And to be honest with you, if people don't like his ego, I don't know what they're looking at, because there are a lot of players in Yankees history, especially Yankees history, that had an ego to which made them so good. So I absolutely love to see guys who have the balls to think they're great, to put in the work to be great. And frankly, if they're putting up numbers that are great, I'm going to give them credit.
Yeah. And think about this, Gary. When you're talking about this team, you might not, and I don't want to assume you feel the same way I do. I'm not like in that mode of, man, I'm dying for Gerrit Cole to come back. I'm really not. Cody Poteet has pitched great. Okay. And if it's not Cody Poteet and say it was, what's his face? Clark Schmidt,
Right.
he's pitched great. So,
Yes.
I mean, the reality is the Yankees are so set up right now. And it makes you wonder, like, why would you even ramp up anything with Cole? Why wouldn't you just keep this thing smooth sailing? And that way, like, come August, when you really start to need him, you need to ramp him up for the postseason. Like, maybe you just wait and you push it back. I mean, now, to be fair, we're talking about stats. We're talking about career accolades. I don't think it's fair to everything that a player like Cole has sacrificed to have a team be so focused on just the playoffs, where it's like, we're not going to let you pitch at all. And that's not what I'm saying, Gary, but I'm not dying to see him right now. And it's not him. It's more so, I think you can conserve him. And at the very least, I would like to see them keep him doing these assignments. Hell, if Jason Dominguez he's at over 70 at bats, I think you keep Cole down in AA, AAA, whatever, and I think you have him keep pitching until like July. I mean, personally, that's what I would do. Maybe even wait until the All-Star break and everything, and then bring him back after that.
Yeah, so what you're saying essentially is that the way we're playing is leveraging a situation where we get to choose when the perfect time to call him up is. Now, whatever time we all agree on, that's all speculation. Like, you guys can all give a different answer, right?
Yeah.
Because the Yankees may think, and this is all fair, that in 2 weeks' time, okay, because we said early June was the target date to really start looking at Gerrit Cole to start to come back. We penciled that Dodgers series. Now, the Dodgers series was seen as he's getting here a little early, right? But here we are post Dodgers series. It's June 11th. And if someone told you we're going to wait until mid or late June based on the timeline we were given at the beginning, you would say, well, the Yankees are taking their time. Now, you don't want to just say, well, Gerrit Cole, we don't want to risk him getting hurt at all this year, so he's just not going to pitch. But of course, that's not what you're saying. But what you are saying is that the Yankees get an opportunity based on what Clark Schmidt did, based on what Nestor and all these other guys in the rotation, Rodon rebounding. Based on that happening, the Yankees just get to handpick when's the perfect time. And most of these other teams, they don't have that. If Tyler Glasnow goes down for the Dodgers, they say, oh, shit, okay, well, we're going to have a spot start. And then they give us a timeline of when he's going to come back. And of course, those starts from those guys who are filling in, they don't look like what Clark Schmidt gave us. They don't look like what Luis Heel gave us, right? They don't look like that. And so, again, as a Yankees fan, you have to say, yes, you're not going to bubble wrap players. They're still professionals. They're still paid to do a job. And also, pitching well in October, you can't just start in September and then expect to be great in October. There's a whole build-up process that goes on with being great. And you have to remember, again, it's not just 100 pitches we're asking for, 90 high stress pitches we're asking for in October. There's going to be a time during the season where Gerrit Cole is going to be asked, hey, we need you 118 pitches, like high stress. You're facing one of the best teams in the league. We're going to go face the Dodgers in the World Series. You need to go to the 120th pitch to get the out we need, right? So part of
Yeah.
pitching in July and August helps you do that. So, Jake, I think we both agree the Yankees have to pick the perfect time to bring Gerrit Cole back. And thankfully, we're all pitching collectively as a unit to allow that.
Yeah, I think Poteet really isn't being talked about enough. What he did against the Dodgers, he pitched 4 2/3. He could have kept going. They were just being cautious. They didn't even need to be cautious. You only give him 2 hits. He's got a 1.72 ERA in 3 starts. You can say, well, it's a small sample size. Yeah, that's fair. Small sample size. He's also 2-0. He's got a .96 whip. Well, he doesn't strike out a lot of guys. Well, he doesn't walk a lot of guys. He doesn't walk a lot of guys. He doesn't give up a lot of hits. Okay, he's not a powered pitcher. That's fine. He's your sixth starter. He's your sixth man. And look at what he's doing. And in some aspects, he's better than Cortez right now. I mean, small sample size, but still. So the reality is you don't have to rush Cole. Now, if you find that, and I think this is fair because let's determine first off, you talk about pitching, just like the number of innings and the number of pitches being thrown. It is still work Cole is putting in the minors. Let's not act like that's not work, but they're not high leverage. Cole is not feeling the same strenuous stress, if you will, that he would be if he was in a Major League Baseball game.
Yeah, he's not on the damn couch. He's facing guys that are going to still test him, but it is not the big leagues. Absolutely not.
So I think that's the thing is that, I don't know. If you're on one hand, if you're on the train that Jason Dominguez should just basically rot in AAA this year, I don't see why you would be all for Gerrit Cole coming up right now. And I think that's the weird thing is that I've seen kind of that dynamic where you have a lot of people on Yankees Twitter who are all for Jason Dominguez spending his entire season in AAA because we don't need him, which is hilarious. But then those same people are we need to bring up Cole right away, ignoring what Cody Poteet's doing, ignoring that Luis Seal is an AL Cy Young candidate, ignoring the fact that Rodon is having a major resurgence for this season, ignoring the fact that Stroman has been everything and more of what people were asking for. And it's mind-boggling to me because it's not me sitting here and not admitting that Gerrit Cole, when healthy, when on the mound last year, is arguably the best pitcher in the league. I understand that, but why even risk? You waited this long for him to come back, and you've won 47 baseball games this year. Okay, 47. I mean that's what we're talking about right now. They're 47-21, Gary. So
and we're in first place over a Baltimore team. By the way, we're not in first place because Baltimore got off to a slow start. No, Baltimore doesn't lose. Go turn on a Baltimore Orioles game in the 7th inning. They're up 8-2 every night, it seems like. They're a great team. Okay?
Yeah.
What Gunnar Henderson's doing over there is gross. The team is excellent. Okay, what Corbin Burns is delivering. All those guys that they wanted to see outside of Holiday out their system got off to a lot slower of a start than they expected. But Baltimore is going out and getting it, and they're still behind us. So it goes to show how good we're playing. You leverage how well we're playing, and you get to choose the time that Gerrit Cole's coming back, the perfect time. And by the way, Jake, another thing that a lot of people don't really talk about with the return of Gerrit Cole and when that time is also what Matt Blake is capable of doing with names that, frankly, a lot of people aren't aware of. Let's use Michael Tonkin as a perfect example. And I have his Baseball Savant page pulled up with me right now. How many people thought that Michael Tonkin, who all of us, not some of us, literally all of us were saying, why the hell is this guy on the damn team? Okay. His barrel percentage is in the 91st percentile. His ground ball percentage is in the 86th percentile. Michael Tonkin's given up his fair share of home runs in his career. But when you're almost in the 90th percentile in ground ball rate, Yeah, you're not giving up as many home runs. Okay. So the odd thing is that his sinker usage is down. His slider usage is up. His slider, he has the highest spin rate this year that he's had on a slider in any other year of his career. This is not a new pitcher. He's not 24. He's not 28. He's not my age. He's not 30. He's 34. Okay. So again, Jake, we have to give Matt Blake credit, something you've done plenty of, but a lot of people need to pay more attention to what he's capable of in order to leverage our health down the stretch. And you don't need your high price $360 million player if your pitching coach is capable of squeezing that extra week or two out of lesser talent. If he's able to do it, awesome. Then you get a chance to bring Cole back when you're ready. But if he can't, it puts you in a spot where if we were 4 games back in the division, we maybe have to bring Cole back for that LA series or this Kansas City series. So I'm just happy about what we've leveraged because it could potentially be cashing in a championship in October. And if we didn't do this stuff early, because I know everybody just says, well, who gives a shit? It's June 11th. You don't win a World Series in June. Yeah, but you sure can lose a World Series in June. You
Thank
sure
you.
can. You can lose a World Series in June.
That's the argument that people make about Jason Dominguez. Well, June baseball doesn't matter. Yeah, it does. Last time I checked, you're playing games in June, right? And last time I checked, you're playing the Orioles 2 more times, I believe, in June.
Yep.
You know what I like that Aaron Boone did that doesn't get enough credit? He didn't change his approach just because they were playing the Dodgers. He let the promoters sit there and be like, you're going to see all these Hall of Famers and all that. That's not my job. I don't give a rip. I'm trying to win baseball games. I'm trying to do what's best for my team. And the best thing for the Yankees was to not play Juan Soto. As painful as it was, as unfair as it was, because also baseball at the end of the day is part of the entertainment industry. So we all wanted to be entertained watching Juan Soto on the same field as Betts and Judge and Ohtani and all that. We didn't get that. But that right there was Boone showing some pullback and being like, you know what? I want to have Juan Soto affect the game for us and help us win games in July, in August, September, and October. I am not going to throw caution to the wind with just, even if it's just inflammation, right? I am not going to throw caution to the wind just because it's the Dodgers. The Dodgers, actually, when you think about it, going up against the NL, those games mean less than any other game. They mean absolutely less than any other game.
Technically true.
If you're playing an AL team, like if this is the Orioles, now you have an argument. But we get too caught up as fans. We get too caught up in the moment. We get too caught up in the storylines and everything. What Aaron Boone did, was basically the smartest thing he could have done. Okay. And last night, we might not have loved that punt lineup, but Aaron Boone knows because he knows these players. He sees these guys every day, and he probably could see right through. Stanton needed a day. Judge needed a day. I mean, Rizzo's needed plenty of days because at this point, I think he's just benched. But it's just funny because, obviously when you're winning, everything changes. But to win a game where you look at this lineup and at first glance, Gary, it's pretty bad. Volpe, Soto, right? Great. Torres, Verdugo, LeMahieu, Grisham, Jones, Trevino, and Cabrera. That's not a lineup you're sitting there like World Series. And all that's really out of it is Judge and Stan, right? So, I mean, really, it's kind of one of those things where we say the Yankees are really good. We talk about all that because of the results. But when you really think about it, this Yankee lineup isn't as dangerous as maybe we portray it to be. And I think
our staff is just disgusting.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it comes down to almost the illusion that having Judge and Soto in any lineup creates, and then having Volpe, who's a really good leadoff hitter, what that does, and then watching Verdugo. And when Stanton's hitting home runs, now you have 5 out of the 9 guys that you're like, wow, okay, holy shit, that's pretty freaking good, right? And right now, LeMahieu isn't like a big name. People have kind of, they're of the belief he's going downhill, very fast.
Definitely.
Grisham is just a guy. Like, yes, he was clutch in the Dodgers series, but he's a Jag, which is okay. I mean, there are plenty of Jags in baseball, and they're better than anybody. They could go out there to the park in any local area, and they'd be the best guy by far in that park. But in terms of Major League Baseball, just a guy. Same with Jahmai Jones, who, by the way, is batting 273. He has a 5.45 slugging percentage and a 4.29 on base percentage. Doesn't play enough for that to really matter, but I thought that was funny.
Yeah, still technically
Trevino,
a Jag.
Yeah, he's a Jag. Trevino, I would say he's more than a Jag. I think his defense, while it was shaky early on in the season, we got on him. His bat, we got on him. He went through, a little bit of a rough patch in the last couple weeks, a little bit. He's back up to 264. So, I mean, I think that's kind of the Trevino we're going to get this year. To be honest with you, I think he's going to teeter between 240, 260 throughout the season, and he's going to play good defense. Then you have Oswaldo Cabrera, who, the average dipped, the on-base percentage dipped. I think it's, to give this guy a break here, he doesn't play. So he went from being ramped up and playing every day to now it's like he very rarely plays. I'm sure he was, cold at the plate. The home run helped big time, but I'm not out on Cabrera either.
He's probably slightly above average right now.
Yeah, and my point I'm making, though, is that, when you don't have Judge and Stanton in this lineup, it does have that illusion on the lineup that it's not really as, that good. And maybe we're sitting here thinking, you know what? The Yankees lineup might not actually be that good from top to bottom. But there is a fix for that. And that's Jason Dominguez.
Yes.
That is Jason Dominguez. Because I'm telling you right now, come October, Jason Dominguez will be in that lineup, whether you guys on Twitter want to believe it or not. And it's going to be Volpe, Soto, Judge, Verdugo, Dominguez, Stanton, right? And maybe Torres, right? And maybe Trevino. But the reality is Volpe, Soto, Judge, Stanton, Verdugo, Dominguez. 6 of your 9 are plus hitters. I'm not talking about we're not calling plus hitters 230 hitters like Gleyber right now. Glaber's not a plus hitter right now.
No, not right now, no.
So Glaber's not, LeMahieu's not, Grisham's not, Jones is not, even though I know he's hitting well.
I don't know if you said anything about Rizzo.
Rizzo is not a plus hitter right now. So the point
here's my question is you just named the offensive players, right? Which I agree with you 100%. Adding Dominguez brings a dimension to the Yankees, makes them way better offensively. But again, the reason Dominguez is not in the big leagues right this second is not because of rehab assignments. It's not because of any of that shit.
Yeah, I don't buy that.
It's because they don't know where to put him. Okay? And remember, Verdugo's your starting left fielder. He's been great. Okay? He's been everything that the Yankees need in terms of philosophy.
Oh, yeah, I don't move him.
Of what they needed. You don't move him. He's your starting left fielder, right? And I'm not saying he's like a franchise cornerstone. You can't move Verdugo around the field. No, they don't want to take him off the field. And I think that's fair. He's your starting left fielder. Juan Soto is your starting right fielder, and they've anchored him over in right field because they feel like defensively the assignment is much lighter on Juan Soto covering right field. And I completely agree. In hindsight, that move really worked out. But my question earlier in the year is that if we're doing that, if that's the system you're unleashing, doesn't it force Aaron Judge to center field? And to which they said, yes, who gives a shit? Who cares? They threw him in center field anyways. They didn't care about long-term health of how it could affect him age 35, 36. They said in 2024, our best option to win is putting Aaron Judge in center field. And to which I said, fair. Absolutely fair. But what do you do now? You have Soto in right, Judge in center, Verdugo in left field. Your DH spot is Giancarlo Stanton, who's performing. He's been streaky. He'll give you 3 home runs one series. He'll give you 10 strikeouts the next series with no hits. But again, I said that's what you're paying for. You're paying you're paying $32 million this year to Giancarlo Stanton to do that. And when he's playing well, you can't just put your hand up and say, this is the Giancarlo we all love. And then he struggles and you say, replace him with Dominguez right now. Right? Because again, it means that you're paying a player $32 million to take him out when he got streaky. And I don't think the Yankees will do that. So my question, Jake, is in order to get creative with this lineup, I don't know. You're going to have to move somebody to first base. Somebody's moving to first base. I don't know who it is. It's not
It's got to be
DJ
Judge.
LeMahieu. It's somebody. So someone's got to give me a real answer as to who that is, because you can't just say Dominguez should be in this lineup and then tell me that he's just thrown in left field and then Verdugo is just gone? How
And
does that
that's
make any sense?
how does that make your team better? Because now, as much as I love Dominguez, now you're taking the contact element out of the lineup. I mean, think about this. Well, we don't talk about, because the Yankees have a ton of home runs, right? They do. They have a ton of home runs, but it's top heavy. I mean, we don't talk about this. We don't talk about it at all. 24 for Judge, 17 for Soto, 15 for Stanton. Verdugo has 8. He's 4th. This team doesn't hit a ton of home runs from top to bottom. They hit a ton of home runs at the top. Do you know why? That was their game plan. They sacrificed the power to add some contact and average the contact into their lineup, and it's doing wonders for them this year. It's no wonder why this is the best Yankees team, I think, since 2009. I think this is the best chance they've ever had at winning a World Series going back to 2009.
Yeah, Jake, because that's how they used to build lineups. The Yankees used to say, well, we have this player in Jason Dominguez, okay? The old Yankees would have done this. Jason Dominguez as an overall player is a better player than Alex Verdugo. Therefore, he should be in the lineup in place of Alex Verdugo. But what the new Yankees are saying is the fit of Alex Verdugo is better for what the Yankees need right now, not just staring at how good is he toe-to-toe with Jason Dominguez. So the Yankees right now have to find a way to make sure Verdugo's spot on this team is locked and loaded and ready to go, and you still find a way for Dominguez. We got to get creative. Everybody's going to have their opinions on if Rizzo should be here long-term, if you take him out, if you take out Gleyber Torres and you move him, make a way for Jason Dominguez. I don't care what people are going to come up with their own answers, but Dominguez has got to be there. At some point or another, it can't be October and Jason Dominguez is in a hoodie that has a Yankees logo on it in the dugout because he's there. That makes no sense.
No. And, I think the thing is, another thing that's really not talked about is that, with Stanton, right? Why do we sit here and not talk about the fact Stanton has played 59 games? Stanton can take days off. You can get Dominguez in this lineup. I think they should be giving him almost every other day off. What's the most important thing? That Stanton gets you a couple home runs, like needless home runs, throughout the week, maybe helps you out in a game or two, but then gets hurt towards the end of the year and you don't have him for October, or you miss out on maybe a couple of those home runs. You take a few of those, L's that maybe you would have won if you had him, but now those don't really matter because now he's available in October. Stanton is injury prone. Okay. So I don't understand why people are acting like he is a full-time DH, because he should not be a full-time anything. His body has shown he can't withstand that. So I have no issue with him sitting yesterday. I have an issue with the fact that now with him sitting, it's, Soto's the DH, which I don't have an issue because he's coming back from injury. But now you have Jahmai Jones, you have Trent Grisham, and you have Jason Dominguez, who, by the way, let me just be very clear here. I've been following Jason Dominguez. It's not like I'm just sitting here like I know who he is, but, I'm just assuming. No, I've been following him nightly, Gary. On Sunday against, I believe it was the Baltimore Orioles minor league team, okay? The Rail Riders won 12-11 in 10 innings. Jason Dominguez batted third. He played center field, by the way, which they're telling us something there. Keeps playing center field. Why would you have him play center field unless you're going to trade him, right? I mean, really, that would be the only way, I think. So he's going to be the center fielder of the future. I have no doubt about that. Jason Dominguez went 4 for 5 with 2 runs and an RBI. He's batting over 1,400 for his OPS in AAA. The only one who's ahead of him is Ben Rice, who has a 1600 OPS because he's been on freaking fire. And that creates a whole other dynamic. By the way, not on the 40-man roster. So I expect if they're going to add him to the 40-man roster, it's going to come probably after the trade deadline when they move somebody from the 40-man roster, because I believe they're definitely going to make a trade or two. Now, Gary, Dominguez is playing center field. Judge is taking grounders at first. Those are two things that have happened this year. Center field for Dominguez on Sunday. So they went from you're a DH every day to now you're playing center field. They could have used this time, Gary, to try him at second, right? This would be the time to try him at second, because second, long term, that would give him a lot of flexibility.
Do you have any idea how good it would be?
Oh, if he could play second?
Oh my gosh. I was looking up, hey, are there any 5'9" first basemen? Because frankly, I couldn't give two rips what Jason Dominguez does defensively in center field. I don't care at all. He could be mediocre, great, Jim Edmonds out there. What we need is that bat. You guys all saw it last year. Before that UCL injury, Jason Dominguez was like, oh, okay, this is our second best player.
And the UCL injury, like, it doesn't look like it's bothering him at all. Like, there's no drop off.
No, he's hitting 380. The dude is just nasty. And this is not a version of Dominguez I thought was going to be here. Because I know 3 years ago, they were all showing me iPhone footage of some 17-year-old kid hitting bombs. And I was like, who gives a rat's ass about that stuff? You know, it's great that we have him in our system. I love having talent. But you got to show me stuff, right? Performance against talent. That's what I care about. And when he started doing that, I started giving him credit. I started acknowledging what he's doing, talking about the different things that he has in terms of strengths, weaknesses. Frankly, the defense is irrelevant to me. The Yankees just got to figure out how to get that bat in this lineup, because, again, when you brought up, this Yankees lineup is really good, but when you take a guy or two out of it, you take an Aaron Judge out of it, it looks pretty human. It looks a little susceptible. It looks like a punt lineup all of a sudden. When in actuality, you just said, Jake, and this is accurate, two guys were taken out of the lineup, and it looked like a punt lineup. Okay? So how great is that lineup? It's not bad. Obviously, we've won 47 games. It's very good. Yeah. But how much better is it with a guy like Jason Dominguez, who you can say, I mean, let's be honest, Anthony Volpe's our leadoff hitter. You've got Juan Soto, Aaron Judge. Verdugo's probably going to stay put right there. You can argue that Jason Dominguez can hit fourth for this team. Jason Dominguez.
Absolutely.
You can argue he could hit fourth for this team, and Alex Verdugo, who's absolutely performing, could slide down to the fifth or sixth spot in this lineup. And it goes to show you, when you've got guys who are having all-star-like performances like Jose Trevino, and they're hitting eighth or ninth for your team, you've got guys like Verdugo hitting fifth or sixth and not fourth. That is an all-time great lineup. That's a lineup where you can say we have the expectation of being better than the Dodgers. Because again, when I talked about the Dodgers lineup, I was talking about a lineup that, in my opinion, was superior to ours. They just don't have the pitching we have. They don't have the staff we have. So, again, the conclusion to all this, Jake, is that the Yankees, sooner rather than later, need to make a decision about what they're doing with Dominguez, because obviously just waiting around for an injury to happen to like Giancarlo Stanton, because you know what's going to happen. Someone could say in 3 weeks, Giancarlo Stanton has a lat issue. He's going to be down for 3 weeks. They're obviously going to call up Dominguez, and people say, see, look, we've got our solution there. It's like, that's not a solution, because if Giancarlo Stanton is healthy again, we now know the Yankees are going to make room for him because of his paycheck. He's making too much money to make that the long-term solution. So the Yankees need to get proactive and choose something, because once you've chosen it, you don't wait for injuries and all this other stuff to change your decision down the road. I just think Dominguez is the type of player you've got to find a way and find a spot for him, and you just worry 100%. About the rest later.
Yeah, I absolutely. I just, Aaron Judge worked out at first base, had the first base glove and everything. By the way, he played first base in college as well, so he's had experience with it. Brandon Cootie actually pointed this out back in February. Aaron Judge worked out first base before the start of spring and isn't rule out emergency action at the position if the team needs him there. He brushed up on angles to grounders, took pointers from the team's infield coach. Did a whole, article on it. Okay. Bob Klappich in 2017 said this is basically, I'm paraphrasing, but this is where he could see Judge going, moving from right field to first. We already saw Judge for the first time in his career play left field this year. Okay. That's the first step, man. I think the Yankees are smarter than we give them credit for. And I think Aaron Judge is going to be moved to first base before the end of the season. And I think Jason Dominguez is going to be the center fielder of the New York Yankees. I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen because I think right now they're kind of just trying to make this LeMahieu thing work out. And I think if they can get him up there to the point where he's hitting, 240, 250, I think they trade Torres at the deadline. I also think they trade Rizzo. And guess what? I know that's a lot, but you have to understand something here, okay? They're trying to win a World Series. I understand team morale. I get that. The Yankees have overcome losing Monty in the middle of the season. That guy was a guy that everyone loved in the clubhouse. The reality is we get too caught up in the team morale aspect of things to not understand the fact these guys are so used to this shit, okay? You're not trading Soto. You're not trading Judge. You're not trading Cole. You're not trading Volpe. There you go. Team morale's fine. If you trade one of those four guys, you're going to lose the locker room, essentially. You trade Heel, you lose the locker room. I think a lot of people would say that. Same thing with Rodon, I would say. The point I'm making here is that losing Rizzo would sting, like in the locker room, because he's a likable guy. And Glaber, he's friends with, he's friends with Soto, as I remember. And, he's got friends. Obviously, he's been around since, 2017, 2016. The reality is, though, this is baseball. This is a business. They say it all the time. They know it. It works both ways. It's not just a business when they need their money and they're trying to negotiate. They also know it's, the ugly side of this business at the deadline. So my thing here, Gary, is that I actually think the more and more my wheels turn, the more and more I kind of process the information that they're throwing at us. Jason Dominguez is not wasting time in center field if they don't plan on playing him at all there this year. So Jason Dominguez will be the center fielder for the future. And he will be the center fielder probably by September for the New York Yankees.
Either that. Yeah, Jake, your point is absolutely accurate. I don't think anybody can debate that. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think anybody can debate what you just said. And let's be clear. If he's in center field right now and the Yankees are preparing, and I think you're right, to be the starting center fielder of the Yankees long term or in the very near future, well, doesn't that tell you that Aaron Judge, who's been anchored in center field, is going somewhere? Or, by the way, there's a trade coming, a huge trade coming, one or the other. And I would anticipate that the Yankees aren't leaning towards trading a very cheap asset long-term when they're talking about payroll. When you're talking about a $300 million payroll, we already know, it's well documented, the Yankees want Juan Soto back. Juan Soto wants to be a Yankee. But that price point has to make a lot of sense for both sides to come to an agreement. The Yankees more than likely won't be the highest offer for Juan Soto. But there's going to be a whole dance that happens, but we'll worry about that in December. We'll cover it here at Yankees Unloaded. But again, the Yankees have to get cheap somewhere. And sometimes, Jake, the cheapest choice is also the best choice. And yes, Jason Dominguez is the cheapest choice. The more expensive choice is trading Jason Dominguez, okay, for the Millers of the world at Oakland, and then re-signing guys like Verdugo, stuff like that, putting a $13 million player in left field. That would be the expensive choice. The cheaper choice would be this: moving Aaron Judge, as you said, Jake, to first base, allowing Soto to stay put in right field, a smart decision. You re-sign him. Jason Dominguez is now a center fielder who helps you win a World Series in 2024. He makes you a better team immediately, way better team, okay? Replacing Rizzo's bat, essentially. And then you allow the team to leave the fit of Alex Verdugo's contact left-handed bat in left field. The Yankees, with that deployment of talent, is a much better team than what you see today. And that team already is better than a really good Baltimore team. So again, Jake, if the Yankees can do this, and we try to give them as much credit as possible, they are very smart, much smarter than what a lot of people like to give them credit for. I think they could pull this off. They could. And so I'm glad we're putting this into the ether because we will go pull up these tapes. All this stuff is forever. So when Aaron Judge does eventually move to first base, we'll come grab this tape and we'll put it out on Twitter, to which doesn't exist.
It is funny you mentioned Twitter that doesn't exist. Yankees Twitter has gone, instead of understanding the rationale and the logic behind Judge moving to first, they've gone against the grain, thinking that they're on the right side of history here, that a 32-year-old moving to first is insane. By the way, newsflash, a lot of these sluggers do that to kind of keep themselves going because it's a long contract for Judge. Let's also remember that he has to make it through it. So, yeah, I think just the writing is on the wall. There is a very good chance that they don't trade one of Rizzo and Glaber. But I do think there's no way that both are on the roster after the trade deadline. Like, I would be absolutely shocked if Rizzo and Glaber were on the roster. I think they'll try to make LeMahieu get up to 240, 250 hitter, and they'll play him at second. I also think that Judge will be the first baseman. You say, well, Rizzo's not a bad backup. Yeah, but that's where morale could get bad because you can't just bench Rizzo and not expect anything to come from it. Rizzo isn't just going to sit there and be okay with being benched the entire year. They're paying him a lot of money. So I look at Ben Rice and I look at, Jason Dominguez. And if you guys are going to Scranton, anybody listening to this going to Scranton, get your last looks at those guys. Because I'm telling you right now, Ben Rice is on a fast track to get onto that 40-man roster and be on this team and be the backup first baseman and be a potential, because he has keep in mind, he has the ability to play first and be a catcher. And the fact that they're using him at first is very interesting to me. That's something that I'm also looking at, because Ben Rice, since he got called up to AAA, has been a first baseman. So we know he caught Gerrit Cole in the AA rehab assignment. Well, there you have it. First and catcher. You know who else does that? Because they like their cross training? Austin Wells. So there's a lot, going into an October where you have limited, call-ups and whatnot, and you have limited roster spots. To bring in a guy like that who can play first or catcher, you already have Wells, you already have, Trevino. That just more the merrier. Now you have a first baseman, Aaron Judge, who would be your starter that can play in the outfield if, God forbid, anything happens. He could also DH. That's another thing. I also think they also will start to DH Judge too. You got to keep him healthy. And a team that has shown the priority, I mean, this is a manager, and again, we give Boone a lot of credit on this show, and I'm not necessarily knocking him, just showing you the approach they take. Gary, this is a manager that will give guys days off after they have a day off. Like, we've seen that multiple times.
Yeah.
So if he's that cautious, don't you think at some point it's going to click, maybe my defensive tackle size center fielder shouldn't be playing center field at age 32. And I thought last year was the nail in the coffin for that, when he ended up hurting his toe, because guess what? If Judge is playing first at Dodger Stadium, he's not hurting his toe in the outfield. So the reality is he's getting older. He hasn't shown any signs of it, but he's getting older. And if you want him to keep, mashing the way he is and be available, because the best ability is availability, then you need to put him at first base or DH. It's really
Jake,
that simple.
You've been to Yankee Stadium, right? You've been to Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
Could you help refresh my memory of why exactly all those number 99 jerseys and pinstripes are around the stadium? What are they coming to watch him do again?
Hit home runs.
They're not coming to watch him fly balls down?
Nope. Although I will give him, when he robbed Ohtani, I think everybody looked at that as a home run.
Yeah, that was really cool. Very cool anecdotal evidence to put him in center field. Nobody comes to watch Aaron Judge play center field. Nobody. Okay.
No, I know.
Some people will tell you, no, he's a great center fielder. I love to watch him play. That's not what I said. I said people don't pay money to see Aaron Judge play center field or right field. They don't come to see him do any of that shit. They come to watch him put on a helmet and hit a home run or hit a ball 120. That's what makes him so compelling. It's the reason why he's box office. People don't pay, okay? If they decided as Dodgers, as a team for the Dodgers, that Shohei Ohtani would be best suited to actually take up a position and be in left or right field long term, he wouldn't become any more popular than what he is now. Do you know why? Because he's only seen to pitch and to hit. They want to see him hit a ball 475 feet into the right field bleachers at Dodger Stadium. That's why these guys are as valuable as they are. Because I promise you guys, if it was just that he was a good center fielder, Kevin Kiermaier is a great center fielder. Do you guys pay to see his ass? I've never heard anybody say that they went to a stadium to go see him play. Never, not once. And that's with all due respect. Kevin Kiermaier is one of the best defensive center fielders I ever saw. Okay, Jim Edmonds being the best, Andrew Jones being one of the best. Again, Torrey Hunter. But again, the reason I say Andrew Jones is one of the best center fielders I ever saw with my two eyes is because of what he did with the bat in basically in unison with what he did defensively. Okay. So again, the Yankees need to manage this asset. The asset is his bat, not the other stuff. Not the other stuff he's exceptional at. No, that just makes him an all-around historic player. But bat alone, Aaron Judge is, to which you said, Jake, last episode, not enough people are talking about that this is an all-time great offensive unit that we're seeing. This is a Miguel Cabrera, Albert Pujols level player that we're seeing. A lot of people are talking about like he's Mark McGwire, just hitting a bunch of homers. No, Aaron Judge is an overall talent, is one of those historically great guys that we need to discuss as such. And if the Yankees are serious about his health, they'll put him in a situation where that bat can be protected. First base is that protection. DH is that protection. So I think the Yankees need to get proactive. I think that's the conclusion on our show, is that they need to make a decision of what they're doing, kind of work out that Dominguez thing. And it also could help Aaron Judge stay healthy as well, making that decision earlier. So yeah, there's a lot to gain for the Yankees being proactive with this. I don't know if they will, but I agree with you about the whole Gleyber Torres Rizzo thing. I think one of the two, they've got to make some type of move.
Yeah. And I mean, keep in mind, when I said DJ LeMahieu, I'm talking short term. Like they want to just kind of see, maybe ride it out, because they told us how they felt. Like they did not waste any breath. When he came back, he's starting at third. Everyday starter. But by Cabrera, And my thing is, you can kind of tell what they're doing if you really look at the minors and you see like where guys are playing. Gary, how many times do you think Spencer Jones has played right field in his career? In the minors?
No idea.
Once.
Once?
He has one start in right field. He has 29 starts as the DH and 159 as a center fielder.
That's surprising. That's actually surprising. Given what else they have in their system, that is a surprise, I will say.
I'm surprised they're not gearing him up for left field. They might also keep this in mind. They might also look at him as just somebody that can move to left field easily and be a corner outfielder. But another thing I want to point out is that Jason Dominguez has played 215 of his games in center field. He has 47 starts in left field. The reality is Verdugo is a rental unless he signs like a 1-year deal. But my thing is, I also want to say this. I don't think the Yankees are going to rush Spencer Jones the way a lot of fans think. I think Spencer Jones is going to have the same path as Judge. He's 23 right now. He'll turn 24 next May. He won't be in the big leagues until the year after next year, in my opinion. I don't think he will. So I think
that's all performance based too. He's not playing well enough to dictate any rush job. Why would I rush a guy who's not? I mean, of course, he has kind of rebounded. You discussed it. You brought up his numbers in the short term. They're excellent. But again, in the totality of his year, Spencer Jones is not playing well. There's a reason you're not seeing him on all types of retweets on Twitter. It's because he's not really doing a ton. So,
No.
yeah, it's not going to be hard not to rush a guy when he's not like, but if Spencer Jones was lighting it up, I said earlier this year, I can see Spencer Jones coming up later this year because I didn't, see really Alex Verdugo being this impactful, not just his individual stats, but just how much impact he's having. He's having enough of an impact to where I said, let me not worry about those guys unless it's like a can't miss talent superstar level where I've got to put him somewhere. I'm not moving this guy. So yeah, I agree with you about Jones.
Yeah, the Yankees are going to be like this offseason, they're going to be Verdugo. If you want a Rizzo deal, we'd love to have you back where you sign a 2-year deal, but we're not giving you 5, 6, 7, 8. Like we have a long-term plan, but we love you in the short term. So if you're game, but if not, if you want to go get your bag, you're going to have to, follow, what's his face? Benintendi and find somewhere else because that's the reality of it. I think they want, looking at the minors, Gary, which can be very telling, I think they want Verdugo back another year, at least. But I think they would probably have a 2-year with a player opt-out. That's what I think. That's the contract I'm predicting. I think Verdugo comes back after this year on a 2-year deal with a player opt-out in his second year.
Okay.
I think that's what we're going to see. Maybe even it's up to $15 million. And it's short term, so I think they'll be okay with that. And it follows the plan because it really coincides with what I was saying because he's never going to play that second year. He's going to opt out. It's designed for him to opt out, but it's basically a 1-year deal. But it feels less disrespectful to just give him a 1-year deal. He'll likely get a 2-year deal, and he gets an opt-out, so he feels like he's more valued. So I feel like you'd go in that direction. Spencer Jones then can take his time really developing, right? Because I don't think they're trading either of the guys. I understand they both play center field, but I think we're probably, if anything, and Spencer Jones hasn't played any left field, I think Spencer Jones will be one of those guys where he comes up and they'll be like, you're in left field. It'll just work out. You know what I mean? They want that arm. I think they would prefer the athleticism of Jason Dominguez in center. He just is more built for center field, in my opinion. And then you'd keep Soto in right field for the long term, because you're not going to pay, him $600 million and say, hey, by the way, you have to play left field. He wants to play right. So you're going to let him play right. But another one I want to bring attention to, talked about Ben Rice, Agustin Ramirez, before we wrap it up. He is 22 years old right now, okay? 22 years old. He'll be 23 in September. He is in Double-A. He is killing it. He has 15 home runs. He's one of the league leaders in home runs. He has a 934 OPS. He is on the 40-man roster. Ben Rice is not. That means they view him as somebody that could be called up in September and actually have a role. And what people might not realize is that while he's played first base 18 times and he's DH 65, they like him at catcher more than I think many people give him credit for, because he's a hitting catcher, if you will. He's played catcher 157 of his games, has 149 starts. So, Gerrit, I think there's a lot to like about this farm system. I do think there's a chance Ben Rice gets traded because he's not on the 40-man roster. I think it's very likely Will Warren gets traded, the pitcher who's not on the 40-man roster. At this point, he's getting up there in age, for prospect, of course. And he's not on the 40-man roster. That's just normally not a good sign. So I think those two are going to get traded if they do trade. Like, I could see them trying to strike while the iron's hot with Ben Rice. But I think that they have guys like, I've been watching, like Jeter Downs has been playing well at third. He could be an option next year or maybe later on in the year. Caleb Durbin, we've already mentioned. The Yankees are not just built for right now. They're built for the future as well. And I think that's something that we really need to get across to our viewers and our listeners, because I don't think people realize that. A lot of people look at this team and they think they're just going all in and they're old and all. They're really not that old, right? They're not. And they have a lot of guys that could contribute right away, in my opinion, right now, that they're just kind of like, okay, waiting on. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And it also gives them a lot of flexibility to kind of do whatever they want at the deadline. Because I think the way Ben Rice is playing, Gary, you could probably trade him like he is a top 8 prospect in your farm system. We saw that with Cruz. They traded away Cruz for John Birdie. They really sold the Marlins on the way he played last year. He's not like a top prospect in the Yankees farm system when they trade him, but his production pushed that conversation to be enough to get Birdie. So I think that's something that, something to keep an eye on, because the way Agustin Ramirez is playing, I don't think, being that he's 22, being that he's on the 40-man roster, I don't think that's somebody they're trading, but they could trade Ben Rice. They could keep them all. We'll see, but, in conclusion, man, young, lot of, and we talk about this all the time, they depleted all their assets. Well, they're back. They have a lot of assets, right?
And they're athletic.
They're young. They got a lot of flexibility. They have a lot of positional versatility. And they also, at the same, thing, they have enough where if Cashman feels like, hey, we need to go out and we need to get this guy, they can do that. I will say the way Michael Tonkin is pitching, don't be surprised if they're not as active in that bullpen area as they might have been initially.
Oh, I think that would be a mistake, by the way. If that's where we're headed, where it's like, hey, we found this diamond in the rough in Michael Tonkin. You think I'm throwing Michael Tonkin in any type of situation? No, that's a depth piece, which is great. And we give it credit. We actually used up like 8 minutes of our show to talk about, baseball savant and how much growth Michael Tonkin has had inexplicably in his age 34 season. It's been amazing. Credit to Matt Blake. Credit to Brian Cashman. But having said all of these things, you can't use the emergence of Michael Tonkin and what he's found at age 34 as a reason not to go get a high-priced guy who can shore up your rotation in October, or not your rotation, but your pen in October. You got to, at any point, it just creates a situation where you get to take your time with Cole, right? You get to take your time with Clark Schmidt, okay? And you can have an opener. You can use pen guys and kind of get through that stretch. But you don't use that as a cop-out to being aggressive at the deadline. The Yankees are in win-now mode. If there's a situation where there's a high-prize reliever in Miller, in Clase A, obviously Clase probably won't be available with what's going on over there, but if he was, you don't want to say, well, hey, I would love Emmanuel Clase, or I would love Miller. Mason Miller would be awesome in pinstripes. But sorry, guys, we figured out something with Tonkin. Are you kidding me? No,
I'm not saying I would do that, but I could see the Yankees doing that. I could.
Well, doing it would just be stupid, wouldn't it? I mean, that would just be dumb.
Well, and I'm not a huge fan of trading away prospects for middle relief pitchers. I always make a joke about that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they'd have to trade top prospects for that. And my thing is, I can understand whatever they decide to do. Like if they decide to stand pat, I'm okay with it. They have enough, in my opinion, reinforcements in their minor league that I think that they could definitely make something happen with that. However, if they also decided to be, active, that's also telling me that they see it as well as I do, that this is the best chance they've had since 2009 to win the World Series. And if that's the case, and they don't feel this is their best chance, but they feel they're missing a piece, and they truly go throughout the trade deadline and don't do anything when they feel like they're missing a piece, that would be a disservice to the fans, the players, the manager, the coaching staff, the organization in general, to not go and make a move. So my prediction, they'll probably get a reliever or two. Like guys that have been heavily scouted all year round, guys that can, be that, kind of what they did, like, finding guys like Ian Hamilton and Luke Weaver, and just get guys that, maybe have one dominant pitch that they can go to. And you'd be like, okay, well, this guy's splitter I can bring in the 8th inning, and he's just going to just run roughshod of this lineup. Guys like that, utility guys. And then I think we're going to see one of Rizzo and Glaber, if not both, traded. And they might even add some prospects too. I wouldn't be surprised, because this would be to make room, right? That's what this would be. You're not doing this to shake up a clubhouse just for the sake of shaking it up. You like those guys as people. They're not bad people, but you would be doing it to go out and maybe bring in some assets for guys are not coming back next year. And while you're doing that, because this is the benefit of having a really good farm, is that now you've created space for a Ben Rice, for an Agustin Ramirez, for Jason Dominguez, for Aaron Judge to move to first. You've created space for all this. And I think that's something, if they feel like that's the better chance to win the World Series, because again, it's not Anthony Rizzo the year he hit 30 home runs and he was hitting 250. It's Anthony Rizzo who could be at the end of his rope. And it's not Gleyber Torres from last year. It's Gleyber Torres right now who's hitting 230 and he's got 5 bombs. Okay? Like, if they feel like there are guys that aren't playing because those guys are in their way, they could move those guys out of the way, knowing they don't have a long-term future with this team, and help their depleted farm system, which, is not depleted, but you can recover some assets for that. Or you could go out and you could just load up the bullpen and you could trade away Rizzo and Gleyber and go out and get some bullpen guys, because if you're trading those guys away, it's probably going to be like a Marlins team that's been obsessing over Gleyber for the last 5 years.
Yeah, because if you are going to make a trade because a lot of people have talked about Miller in Oakland, those teams aren't going to be enticed by anyone making $10 million, $13 million, expiring contracts.
No.
Oakland wouldn't even be looking at those type of players. So Gleyber Torres, a lot of people say, "Whoa, Gleyber and throwing a huge prospect." No, Oakland is not going to be taking any contracts. Okay, the Yankees trade is going to be completely contract irrelevant. It's not going to have anything to do with money per se when it comes to getting those high prize guys. When you're talking about getting a guy who can potentially back up or replace a Clay Holmes and move Clay Holmes to the 8th inning, or leave Clay Holmes in the 9th and have essentially a super bullpen and having a closer in the 8th inning. Well, that would be all great, but in order to acquire those guys, you're not giving up the assets that the Yankees don't feel like they need right now in Gleyber Torres and Rizzo. People don't just give up assets that you want for stuff you don't want, right? And then that's just not the way shit works. You have to give up something that you really didn't want to lose in order to get something you really want to have. So that's the situation the Yankees are in. I kind of agree with you. If the Yankees do nothing, I think they do have enough to win a World Series. Things do have to bounce their way. Guys have to continue to stay healthy, but that's always been the case, right? Judge's got to stay healthy. Soto's got to stay healthy. Verdugo's got to maintain his presence in this lineup. Jason Dominguez got to find his way into this lineup. Maybe we get some production out of Mayhew. Maybe we don't. Trevino having a huge bounce back year after a major injury last year has been huge for this team. And then, of course, Rodon and Luis Gil, all that's just amazing. But having said all that, it's enough of what the Yankees have, but can they improve? Yeah, they can really improve. And we've kind of laid out a couple guys that we can see moving. And I wouldn't be surprised. I think the number one guy I can see being moved is Gleyber. Even though Rizzo has been the way he is, I just think Rizzo is the more impactful player when it comes to the locker room. And again, just because someone's good in the locker room doesn't mean you can't trade them. Because otherwise they would never be traded ever. Chicago would have never traded him. No one would ever trade him, right? In San Diego, because Rizzo started with the Padres, would have hung on to him. So, yeah, it's not you're a good guy, we'll keep you with the organization long term. No, it's are you a good guy in the locker room, and are you the perfect fit for this team? If you are not, they find other ways to win, and we think our prediction is that they will. So I guess only time will tell. We'll cover it either way. That's why the trade deadline, especially on our show, is going to be so interesting. We're going to kind of dive into when we were right, wrong, and just kind of all the new developments, because there's things that we don't see that are going to happen, right? Things that are just not on the table at all. There could be an injury or two, and then all of a sudden the Yankees are in the market for an infielder, right? So we have no idea what could happen, right? Bregman could be potentially on the trade market. The Yankees might look that direction. There's a lot to happen, in this, especially for us, right? And this is the first
Oh
time in a
yeah.
while. I agree with you. First time in a while, man. I'm 30. I was in ninth grade the last time the Yankees won a World Series. It was a long freaking time ago. A long time ago. The Yankees need a chip. They need a win, and we need it in a desperate way. But you don't win World Series in June, but you can lose them. So let's go win a ball game today.
Yeah. And while we're at it, I just want to say, as we wrap this thing up, I want the Yankees to go out and sign Jorge Lopez. He's available. I think he'd be great for the bullpen. And, now that we have like context about him throwing his glove in the stands and everything, going through a lot, obviously prayers to, him and his family. His son is dealing with a chronic illness. And he got a lot of, blowback about that. And, I think he's just going through a lot right now. But if he is trying to play baseball, I would like to see the Yankees go after him because I like the story, of, kind of a redemption thing. They also got another guy from the Mets, Michael Tonkin, who's been very good. But Lopez has good stuff. He could really help this team. And, you just DFA'd a reliever. You brought up, Ron Marinaccio when he pitches. I don't know. I thought we would have seen him by now. But, you still have Caleb Ferguson, who's hovering over 5, I believe. So I would be for bringing in Lopez. And then, maybe making a move or two at the deadline. But we'll see what ends up happening. There's been nothing on him. There's been nothing. The Mets DFA'd him. I think they have like 10 days or whatever. It's been over 10 days, though. So I don't know what the deal is there, Gary. Maybe you do. But
Nope.
I would be all for going after Jorge Lopez.
Okay. I can see it. I want him to get an opportunity. I don't know if it's with the Yankees. Of course, the Yankees, just because someone has good stuff doesn't mean they're going to give him an opportunity. There's clearly something that they see in certain pitchers, whether it's pitch usage, different types of vertical and horizontal movement. Who knows, right? Spin rate. We don't know what it is that the Yankees see, what it is Matt Blake sees in these guys to make them believe, hey, I can get something out of this guy. Because it does seem like some moves that they make are super intentional. Like we're just like, why this guy? And then you see the results right there in front of you. No one thought Michael Tonkin would give us anything, literally anything. And now you look at him and you're just like, I don't know how he's about to do this shit, but he's going to do it. And it's what it is. The numbers speak for themselves. We cover them, and that's our job. So, yeah, I want to see Lopez get an opportunity. Didn't know that was the situation with him, and obviously that's sad. But I'm sure he'll be given an opportunity. His career numbers are what they are. They're deserving of another opportunity. And now having the context of what happened, I'm sure he'll get a shot.
Yeah, I think so too. I know last year they traded for Keenan Middleton. I don't know what happened to him. I wouldn't be surprised if they went out and tried to get him again at the deadline because they liked his stuff. But yeah, we'll see. Just was throwing the Jorge Lopez thing out there. I don't know where that goes. Okay, Middleton is on the IL right now. They also they got Brubaker, so that's another thing. They could see something in him. He could be back at some point. I don't know what the specifics are there, but they had to know something. They had to have some sort of plan when they traded for a guy who was already hurt. So we'll see.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say the Yankees had a plan because sometimes they have a plan and you're like, genius. And then another time I'll watch them and I'll see them trade for the most irrelevant players you've ever seen in your freaking life. And you're just looking at Cashman like, what the hell was that shit? And he's like, yeah, that was my bad. But I'm going to sleep in a knapsack over here by this building and go, I remember what he was doing where he was like scaling the building. I'm like, what is he doing? He was doing the charity thing where he sleeps in the sleeping bag outside of like Yankee Stadium or wherever. And I'm just like, all right. But I wouldn't say that if the Yankees make a move, there's like always some reason behind it. Of course, I'm sure there's something Brian Cashman probably thinks he's seeing or something some scout told him. But just because they see something doesn't mean it is something. That there is give and take with literally every GM, no matter how good they are, right? You see Atlanta trade for Chris Sale and you're like, what the shit are they doing? What are they doing? Okay, Chris Sale sucks. He's been hurt every year. He has no business being a part of any contender at all. And then he gets to Atlanta and he's just absolutely disgusting, to which shocked me. Because when I saw Chris Sale be traded to Atlanta, I'm like, what are they seeing? But the track record of their staff says, hold on a second, maybe they're seeing something. And there it was. So, yeah, I try to give Cashman as much credit as I can. I try to give Boone as much credit as I can. But, yeah, sometimes there's going to be misses. So I say that the Yankees have enough options in the minor leagues to kind of make up for those bridge guys to help out the bullpen. They don't really have to make trades and lose assets to acquire more of those guys. I think if they make a trade, it's to kind of get rid of the surplus of talent that they have in terms of like logjam positions, second base, first base, positions they really could use to create some flexibility. And then the high prize spots of a super reliever, those are the guys, in my opinion, they should be making trades for. If it's not for that, I'm cool staying pat.
No, I hear you. I think the Brubaker thing is interesting though. And when it happened, it was probably giving them, some insurance for the rotation because he is a rotation guy. And they also got rid of Kiner Delgado, who's killing it, by the way, in the minors for the Pirates. So they gave up an asset for him. And he was already on the 60-day IL. Now, update on him as we literally close it out, the elbow, right? Through 2 simulated innings, extended spring training, early May is the last time. So Brubaker is hopeful for a return from the 60-day IL around the All-Star break. He had Tommy John surgery back in April of 2023. So they've been going really slow with him. Multiple live sessions under his belt. Extended minor league rehab assignment should be happening within the next couple of weeks. So like right now, the Yankees reportedly view him more as an insurance policy in the rotation rather than counting on him to make starts for the big club once he's activated. To me, I'm getting the vibe this guy is going to be a long reliever. And I think that's what the Yankees need.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
I think he could end up being kind of this hidden gem. And I've already
kind of like
seen
Weaver.
Yes. And
okay.
It's funny because with Brubaker, you have Pirates fans that are like, man, I wish we didn't trade Brubaker. Not aware that Kiner Delgado is killing it he just hit 3 home runs in the last 4 games. There's a lot of Pirates fans out there that miss this guy. There are also Pirates fans that are like, what the hell are you talking about? He had 4.99 ERA. But right now the Pirates are dealing with their own bunch of injuries and issues with their rotation. So it's interesting, Gary. We'll see what ends up happening. I do think they had a legitimate plan with him. Giving up Kiner Delgado, who was very productive in the minors. You have to, like you said, you have to give up somebody you don't want, sometimes to get somebody you want. I think that was the case. I think they have a plan for Brubaker.
Okay. I can see it. I mean, we'll see what happens. I don't know if they have some huge plan for him, but I mean, I don't think any middle reliever like Weaver, all these guys, I don't think there's some huge plan for him. I think there's kind of some tentative decision making that goes on, and we just kind of see with those guys, you earn your spot and it's yours to keep. But if you don't perform, we'll kind of throw in that next guy who's in the hat. So I think one of the names that are in the hat, and we'll take a look at him.
Yeah, and the Yankees have him under control until 2026 because they have arbitration this year. So,
which is cheap.
Yeah. So once again, the cheap mission thing that we always bring up with Hal, but that is going to do it for an extra long episode of Yankees Unloaded. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us for this long. If you did, you're the real MVP. I don't know what else to say. Be sure to follow us on all social media at JK Bogan, at Gary Sheffield Jr., and at Yankees Unloaded. We will be back very soon to talk about Yankees and Royals. And, we continue to talk about everything else. So we'll probably be doing that as well. But until next time, guys, you guys take care and go Yankees.
And like this video.